Yak Gadget, made in America, based outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Yak Gadget offers all kinds of storage accessories, quick mount motor mounts, anchor systems, track mounted accessories, even paddles. Go to yakgadget.com and get your kayak decked out for your next trip out on the water.
The 153 Bait Company, based in Troy, Ohio, make everything from plastics to custom painted hard baits. Hook 'em hard and hook 'em often. All of our baits are made to order, and all of our hard baits are hand painted to order. So go to the153anglers.com to place your order today.
To hell and back is in the job description. Being roughed up, scuffed up, run over, kicked, thrown, dropped, dunked, and done the unthinkable is a duty we've embraced for more than 40 years. Through superior engineering and constant innovation, only Pelican has conquered the chaos a life of ambition can dish out. And we've done it to empower you.
Welcome to The Reel Down on Paddle and Fin with your hosts, Dan Perry and Jimmy Skinner, where we talk about everything tournament kayak fishing. Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Reel Down. It's just me right now tonight. I got a special guest host. We gave Dan the night off, spend some time with his family, get some stuff done. Got a big show planned up. We're going to go over the Bass Nation Kayak Series event that we just had on Lake Fork last weekend. I was down there, but a couple of the other paddle and fin guys, 196 anglers showed up for that one. It was killer. Like and share it. Let's get everybody on here and let's get going. First off, the guest host, we brought in old Armando. What's on, dude?
What's going on, everyone? How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm tired, man. I didn't think I would be this beat from just enjoying a week of fishing, but I am worn out. 9.5 hour trip one way, 9.5 hour trip back. It was a rough week of fishing. The weather sucked with the 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah.
Dude, it was bad. What about you?
I'm doing all right, man. Kind of like mixed feelings about the tournament, about what I did in the tournament. But, it was kind of disappointing for me. The tournament didn't fish quite the way I was expected. Definitely not what it fished last year when Cody Milton won it. But, I mean, it's a great time. It's Bass Nation. You get to, hang out with some of the best anglers in the world, pick their brains on, and just have fun, man. Catching a fish, I know it's kind of cliche, but that's just, how do you say it? That's just, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I feel you. We had, I think I was guilty. I spent too much time looking versus keeping a line in the water. I shared a house with some really, really killer anglers from Tennessee, and that was a great time. Most of them were on really good fish, and we knew what they were doing, but we kept trying to pick areas that were just kind of off the beaten path as much as we could, because we knew how many people were going to be down, and all that effort that we put in. And by the time we, got it dialed in, it didn't matter. Well, we thought we had a spot. We went the day before the tournament, one final look. No one was there because it's a 2-mile run. Really popular spot on the lake, but I mean, there were like 30 fish on beds that I knew I could catch because it's something I've spent time learning. And tournament morning, we showed up and there were 17 people headed that direction, or 14 of the 17 people at the ramp went that way. And it was like an old bass boat race, man. I was the only one with a motor on my Frontier, and a guy in a PA 14 360 pedaled his heart off to stay in front of me, and he beat me there by about 100 yards, probably about 60 seconds. And there were 3 kayaks and 2 bass boats locked up in that spot, and the spot's only 20 yards wide, so we couldn't even get in there. And the biggest heartbreak, you get to sit there and watch. We watched him catch 17 fish in 20 minutes. The guy that beat me there held first place for like 5 hours, and it was just. And then my day just went downhill from there. I lost a whole bunch of tungsten flipping trees. One cool thing that did happen is we were
Feel the pain.
the spot right outside of the spot we were in was where Fletcher Shyrock did really good at the MLF last year on day one. So we went over there and started flipping the trees, and sure enough, Fletcher Shyrock pulled up in his wrapped boat, sat and talked to us for a little while we were fishing, and that was kind of cool. But yeah, it was a good tournament, a lot of experience, a lot of gators. I did not know that Lake Fork had gators.
Dude.
Big gators. Speaking of gators, I'm going to go ahead and shout out my boy Mark Coates. He met me at the ramp, told me his day was worse than mine. I told him there was no possible way. And then he showed me
picture.
He showed me this, and hold on. I took it away. Oh, I'll have to find it in a minute. It disappeared on my computer. But
well, while you get it, let me tell you something. He's lucky in a way that he only got that 6-foot gator on his kayak. Because I was wishing that Caney Creek, like past the bridge, like really, really shallow waters, and I ran into a giant gator. And the funny thing is, I cast out and I cast right towards where he was. He was right at the bank. I wasn't looking because it's kind of camouflage. Gators are kind of like grayish and dark, and the bank is all mud. So I didn't notice until I start reeling my bladed jig that's a gator. So I stopped reeling, took my phone out, took a picture and a video, and then put my phone away and start reeling my bait again. And of course, it got snagged. And I'm just, discreetly trying to get it on snag as quiet as I wanted to be. That gator caught his attention and just kind of lifted his head and started eyeballing me, and all of a sudden starting scraping his way to the water. And I'm like, nope. Get the scissors. I am out. I don't care if it's a jackhammer. It's not worth it.
No.
So there's some giant gators on that part.
Well, everybody can look it up. Apparently, I clicked off the picture and it is gone now. But yeah, just look up Mark Coates. He's got it on his page. I'll share it on the Paddle and Fin page after this. But he was standing and punching a mat and had like a 6-foot gator crawl into the back of his kayak with him. And he proceeded to get out of said kayak.
Yep.
But yeah, man, I'm sure these guys have got a lot of stories. We'll go ahead and get them on.
Yeah.
I know they already been on KBN. That was a good show. But without further ado, the winner, Nate Gloria, couldn't get second place. If you end up listening to this, man, I looked and asked everybody I knew, and we could not find you. But third place, Lance Burris. What's up, guys? Wow, my screen flipped y'all around, and it just confused me.
Lance, how you doing? Nate, how you guys doing? Sorry, you got crossed there.
Doing good.
Awesome, man. Thank you guys for coming up to the show.
I don't know about you, Lance, but I am beat. I'm tired. I got my first full night of sleep last night.
Whoop.
Oh,
we lost Nate. He was having trouble with his battery. Yep. So Lance, tell us about, well, go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, yeah, I was just, first off, tell everybody who you are if they don't know who you are. Where are you from? How'd you get into kayak fishing?
I'm Lance Burris. I've been around kayaks for quite a while. I got into the kayak tournaments in 2018. Fished with the Noyak Fishing Series here in Missouri. And I fished 4 of the BASS tournaments last year, some of the KBF. That's part of some of the national championships. That's about it. Fished the TOC once against Nate.
Yeah. Did you you said you fished 4 of the events last year. Has that got you qualified for, did you qualify for the classic coming up with Bass Nation?
Yeah.
You gonna make it down there? You gonna make it to it?
Yeah.
Awesome. I've heard a lot of guys that have qualified bailing out on it. I mean, like half the guys in our house were qualified for it and said they didn't think they were going to make it. That's a bummer. I think it's going to be a good event, especially since they moved it off that lake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Possum Kingdom should be on fire.
Yeah.
I think the change of the date kind of affected that. I've heard that from a few people that they
had
it off but couldn't change it.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with the, mid-season swapping of the date and location. I know a couple of people personally that lost a lot of money in reservations on that.
No.
But yeah, man, well, we're glad to have you. Nate, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, tell us about yourself, where you're from, how you got into kayak fishing.
Yeah, sure. Nate Gloria. I'm 29. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I got into kayak fishing. Interesting story, actually. I used to care for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and had a gentleman who lived with me. We kind of shared life together, and one of the things that he loved to do was fish, and one of the things that I love to do is fish. And we were out at the lake one day, and I had seen a kayak go by, and I said, "Man, if I could get a kayak, I could maybe get over that stump over there, and there might be a bass, on that stump." And so I ended up going to Bass Pro Shops, bought a $450 kayak, and went out to that lake, went right to that stump, and caught a 4-pounder, and I was hooked on it since then. And then got into tournament fishing. Not long after that, as I went to Lake Wanahoo, met up with Marty Hughes, if you know who that is. Great friend of mine. He introduced me to tournaments, invited me to come and fish a tournament, and that's kind of when I fell in love with tournament fishing and been doing it since. So
That's when the addiction started, huh?
yeah.
I think that's almost all of our stories, man. It started out as a fun way to not spend money and fish, and then here we are.
Yeah, spending lots of money to fish because it's a challenge chasing some of these longer events.
Yeah, definitely. It's sad that and I know I'm not even the only one, but a lot of these guys will pay the money to get in these big events just to kind of hang out with everybody. Like half of our house was there to like really try and cash a check, and then the other half was just kind of like whatever. I just paid the money to come out here for a week. And then a buddy of mine put it a good way too. If you break it down over like we were there like I think 5 days, it's really not that expensive. But it was a good trip. But let's get into forks. So whichever one of y'all want to talk about it. And Armando, you fished it too. I fished it. So whoever wants to talk about it, kind of lay out Lake Fork for anybody that doesn't know about that amazing fishery.
Who wants to start?
Lance, I'm interested to hear how you caught him, man. Dude, Lance is just as good as a stick on fork. He's got just as good a consistency as anybody on that lake right now. So I'm eager to learn from you, man. If you want to get us started, man, how were you catching them?
This is my third time on fork. So far, fork has been pretty good to me. It is one of the most diverse lakes, I think, as far as being able to go from one end of the lake and seeing 45 degrees to the other end and seeing 65. And you can fish anything you pretty well want to, unless you're looking for rocks, and then there aren't. So
there are none. Yeah. Something about the temperature that blew my mind. I mean, just like you said, the swing of the temperature, but in the short distance, you can see that temperature swing. Like I would put in 55-degree water, and I would go less than a mile back in a pocket, and I got 70 degrees one time, and it was just like, Jesus. And you could literally just watch the way the fish, like you had fish on beds there, and then you had the pre-spawn fish outside. It was just so crazy.
The cove I was in, or the cove I started in, was 49 degrees on one side of it. The other side was 56.
That's nuts.
And then 60 went, and it wasn't 100 yards wide.
That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. So I pre-fish. I don't typically break down one spot on the lake. When I first get there, I kind of give myself about 2.5 days to break down the lake, and I'll just first day hop and skip from each end so I can kind of see what the temperatures are and different places, and then I'll start kind of narrowing it down towards kind of seeing how the bass are reacting, what stage they're in, especially around the spawn. Since twice I've fished kind of the spawn area or in the spring on fork, and then once is in the fall. But this year was about what I say about a week behind to a week and a half behind what it was last year in the same time, just going off of where I found them. So I kind of broke down. I was looking for the coldest water. I figured since it did have a cold front, that water, it can warm up really quick, but the fish may not be ready for it. So I was trying to find that mass of big fish and where they were. If I found them, I could find more than if I found a couple of spawners that a lot of people might find.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't find everything I was looking for in pre-fishing, and I stumbled across it on tournament day, and just as it progressed through the day, I found them a little better, and if I had about 30 more minutes, I would have been feeling really good.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, no, it's something to talk about a Lake Fork, man. Even when you're not on the fish there, at least for everybody that we fished around, the fish there are just so much bigger. And I don't even just mean the good ones, the 20 plus fish. Like my buddy caught I think it was 11 inches and was over 1.5 pounds. Like that lake is insane as far as healthy fish go. Like I was catching 17s that weighed like 3.5 pounds that were putting up a good fight. And then, like where you were focusing on colder water, we had a bunch of good reports about them, already up and spawning and stuff. So that's what I like to fish for this time of year. So that's kind of what I put all my eggs in that basket, and rolling up on some of those beds and seeing some of those giant fish just swimming around. Like thought I was on a female at one point. Was fishing the female, trying to get it to bite, probably about 4 or 5 pounds. And then the female comes out from under the mat, runs into the male, and they both leave. And that was one of the biggest fish I've ever seen in person, and was like, wow, the bucks out here, huge. But yeah, it was a killer tournament. But tell us how you were gonna find them, Nate, and then we'll really dial into like on tournament day specifically, like y'all's days.
Yeah, Lance, that's extremely interesting, man, and to be honest with you, quite impressive. Because you're the only soul I know that was chasing cold water. Mine was completely different, man. I was chasing warm water. I had heard on the guide reports that northern creeks like Running Creek, Glade Creek. There's another one. I cannot remember the name of it. I know it starts with a C. It's up in the far right hand side up there. But Birch Creek, the reports had said that those were all just on fire, and so that's what we did pre-fishing. We checked some of those creeks up that way, and just didn't find what we were looking for. And I think on that day, because we got in Wednesday night, late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, and so then we had Thursday and Friday to pre-fish. So Thursday was spent all in those northern creeks, like Running and Birch, and we went over to Rogers Creek, we didn't see a whole lot of people, so I don't know if that was the day that most folks decided to maybe check Glade or check Little Caney. And so then on Friday we pre-fished Little Caney. My buddy, he knows that I had previously won a tournament there on Little Caney, so he's like, I know you're probably dying to go there. I was like, I am. We've at least got to go check it out, and so we did, and I'm real glad that we did.
Yeah. It's a good decision to cash a check off of that. I fished the extreme northern end of it up under the bridge. I never put in at the ramp just because the one time we drove by, we saw so many people.
Yeah.
But from everybody I talked to, like our whole house hit Caney at one point, and Caney was on fire. Like for it to sustain fish for that many people for that many days. And I was up in Glade Creek, and it was the same way. The bass boater I talked to, like I said at the beginning, they caught 17 fish in 20 minutes, and he was talking and said, yeah, we've caught 4 8-pounders out of this hole this week. I mean, it was just insane how they were reloading.
I heard that report on Friday night as well, that there was like a couple of 8-pounders that were caught out of Glade that day on Friday. So going into the event, for me personally, I didn't have anything to go off of, to be honest with you. I had, if you know where the boat ramp is at Little Caney, I went straight across to one of the points right there, thinking that some of the bass from the main lake were still traveling in, and I could pick some off there. And in pre-fishing, we were able to catch them on live scope like that. But tournament day, for the first 30 minutes, I sat there and not a single bite. So, the fish were in such a mood to travel and to be on the move and headed back toward the creeks. You just had to find the right place to intercept the right size of class of fish.
Oh, yeah. And, Nick goes to say, too, that you saw the lake, like you saw the bite changing. Like we had a guy that got there a day before everybody, and he just completely waxed them. And then he fished each day after that, and he's very, very methodical. It's Adam Reiser, he's a stick, and he was just talking about like, man, this is changing, this has changed. And we thought it was making an upswing, and it seemed like each day it just got tougher and tougher and tougher. But it was a fun trip nonetheless. What about you, Armando? We'll treat you. You was one of the tournament anglers. How'd your pre-fishing go?
I was being a one-trick pony on that. By the way, shout out to Arnulfo, who's on the show. He's already texted me. He said hi. So thanks Arnulfo for tuning in and supporting the channel. But I was being a one-trick pony, and that came to bite me. I fish where I've always fished on Lake Fork. It's always brings success to me on Lake Fork, where I caught some of the biggest bass, and I thought it was going to work out because I fish it kind of around the same time every year. I did venture up Caney Creek, kind of where Nate was, but pre-fishing on Thursday. But I only managed one bite, and like he said, it was really kind of weird. And I'm guessing that big snowstorm that came in 2 weeks earlier still has a little bit to do with it when you look at what Cody Milton put up last year, and it was March 14th, if I'm not mistaken. And it was all bed fishing. Everybody was bed fishing, and he just happened to be the better at it that day. This one was mixed bags, and Lance attests to what he was saying. He was looking for cold water, which was a ticket maybe to get where he was, because not a lot of people were doing that. Everybody was just being a bank beater. And then there were some spots where you can find bedding bass, and I did. And then were some spots where you would think they were bedding bass, but they were not at all. They were more like what Nate had, kind of like pushing shad up the bank. My spot that I wanted to got fished so hard, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys. How did all the boat traffic? I think there was a crappie tournament. There was a boat tournament. That boat tournament kind of cost me, and not cost me, I'm not making excuses, but it did cost me, I guess, a fish, because I went to a creek where I saw 2 beds. And I was with one of the guys that was with the Jeremy Mitchell crew. And it's funny because he sees me pitching constantly at them same spot. So he comes up and says hi, and we started talking. I'm like, man, I'll be honest with you, and you're probably going to come here tomorrow. If you see me at this spot, if you beat me to it, I just let you know. I'll give you a secret, and make of it what you want. But I don't, when I come back tomorrow, I kind of want to hit this spot. If you're here before me, if you don't mind sharing it, because I saw 2 big females just bedding like 15 feet from each other. So he's like, oh, that's cool, man. If I get here before you, if I don't come, we'll share the spot. So that was cool of him. I did find 2 females. I was like, I'll leave him alone. I tried a little bit to see if I can get him enticed to a bite, but I was struggling with it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave it alone. Come back tomorrow. So when I got there tomorrow, this huge platoon, of kayaks just heading to that same spot. And I was like, you know what? I'm not, it's going to be too crowded. So I went back to the spots that I'm familiar with, hoping that, later throughout the day they will leave and I can go back to the spot. And I did. And I found one of the bedding fish. There was a guy from Idaho fishing there too. And he was right where the bed was. He was like really shallow anchored right where the bed was. And I told him like, hey man, I don't know if it's okay with you, but right behind you, there should be a bedding bass. I mean, you can even see the tail kind of like aerating or cleaning the eggs.
Planning, yeah.
So he's like, you don't mind? I mean, you can cast to it. I've been eyeing it from yesterday. And he's like, no, man, cool, have the spot. And I couldn't get it to bite, left the area, came back. And then I eventually did find it was I think a 17-inch bass. Later at the ramp, and I know I'm making this short story way too long, I talked to 2 guys that were fishing there, and they said that a boat from a tournament actually caught the female at that same bed, actually both beds. And then they had to put him back because they were on a slot limit, and that female was too big for the slot limit. So that tells you how big that female was. But that might have spooked him out of the nest.
The Lake Fork slot limit is ridiculous anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be 16 or over 24, I think. 16 and under or over 24 is what they told me. They're like, so their 5-fish tournaments come in like 7 pounds. Like it's weird what he was telling me, because they caught an 18 and had to throw it back. And I was like, wait, that's not even in your slot. And he was like, no, it's 16 to 24. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I wouldn't even be fishing a boat tournament out here then. I would just come out here and fish. Like,
how did that affect you guys, Lance and Burris? Sorry to cut you off there, Jimmy. The boat traffic, all the people, not only the kayak anglers who were 196, but I mean the tour guys, the crappie fishing tournament, the bass fishing tournament. How did that play into your game plan, and how that affected you all? Let's start with you, Lance.
When I was pre-fishing, it did affect it a little bit, which is kind of why I started aiming towards cold water, because anywhere that I thought I wanted to be, there were boats and kayaks all over it. And I feared the fish either reloaded or were numb to it, and they bite again the next morning. I would have had to beat them there. So I kind of had 2 plans in play for tournament day. The first one was to hit the back of a pocket that I figured had beds in, or actually I knew it had beds in there, and see if I could catch them before their boat showed up. And some reason the females weren't eating in the morning, so I basically left that spot, went to my second spot where the colder water was, and I ran into a few bass boats, but they weren't where I was fishing. They were fishing kind of different. You can tell they had guys, and every boat had 3 people in it.
Yeah.
But they weren't doing what I was doing. You could tell they were hitting the pockets, but then they were hitting some deeper water. And these fish, I mean, there could have been deeper fish out there, but I don't fish deep, so I wouldn't have found what they found if they had them.
I feel you.
But I found all my fish in 2.5 to 4 feet of water.
Wow. And that cold of water is what's impressive, man. That's because I was catching mine in 1 to 3 foot of water, but my water temps were 62, 63. So hats off to you to be able to catch them in that cold water, because that's not easy, man. So to be able to figure out a bite like that, against a field of those kind of anglers is certainly impressive, man, and much different than what anybody else was doing, which probably led to your success. So very, very, very well done.
What about you, Nate? Do you have any trouble with the extreme amounts of pressure from the boats?
To be honest with you, no. The point I got there first thing in the morning was just right across the boat ramp. Didn't catch anything there, but anytime that I had seen that point throughout the day, I had not seen anybody fishing it. And then the 2 cuts that I had fished, there was one kayaker who I had gone in there first thing in the morning and hit a 12-inch fish. I took a photo of it without the identifier on it, so that one was out of contention right off the gate. And then I had caught a 21-incher the day before pre-fishing in this cut, which is why I went back there and broke that one off in the morning. And so when I came back to that area later on, there was a guy that pretty much kind of made his home in that little cut. And then the other cut that I was in, there was one kayak angler who was fishing. You had the weeds, and then you had some open water between the weeds and the bank. And he was kind of tucked back up inside of there. So I breezed by him and just kind of went further back into the cut there. And so I really didn't run into too much pressure as far as other kayaks and other boats go, which was quite surprising, as many guys put in at Little Caney.
Yeah. Well,
but a lot of guys went up to that creek where you went, Jimmy. Is a lot of guys went clear up there. So I think you probably had pretty good company up there, didn't you?
Well, I ended up not fishing up there tournament day, but that was the reason. Is I knew we brought it down to 2 spots. I knew if we did Caney, the guy I had with me, that was his plan, and I was like, man, everybody's going to do that. Because what we would do on pre-fishing is we would put in at the bridge up in the creek. And, I mean, by safe light, people were already run up there in their Torquedos.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, this is the same thing's going to happen. So we put, and I'll say the spot, it's not a secret. We were on Mark Daniels' spot from the MLF in Glade Creek last year. And he's not lying, man. That spot's magical. But every guide on that lake knows that. So,
yeah.
And the the people that own the land that pocket's surrounded by, they tell everybody too. It was hilarious. Every time somebody'd come by, they'd be like, "Oh, there's so many big fish in here. Come fish over here." It was so funny. But yeah, well, let's get into it. Lance, why don't you tell us, actually, like, walk us through your tournament day? You know, tell us how you called them if you want to. You ain't got to say where, or just whatever you want to say.
All right. So, basically, I started out. I had 2 other kayaks that launched at the same place I did. Me and another guy had one spot picked out, one pocket, so we both basically just went together whenever it was time to leave. And we went to the back of it, and neither one of us caught anything big. We had a bunch of bucks that hit. And I could tell the big fish weren't biting like they were before there. So if they got hammered the day before, whatever would happen. We both took off, went back to our second spot. So I went to a complete different cove. It was about a 30-minute drive to Torpedo, and went around. So I just started cranking a lipless. I found a couple on lipless, went in some of the pockets, and not a lot of fish, but the ones that were hitting were decent. So I just basically went to. I was actually really beating the banks, and between chatterbait and the lipless, I was picking out big ones. I think I upgraded 3 times throughout the day, and I was headed to the back of the cove because I only found one spot that I had caught him on frog in pre-fishing a couple days before, and I went back there and ran into the 2 other kayaks that I saw the rest of the day. So I only saw 4 total, and so I just turned around because it was a very small area. So I turned around, went back out to where I started getting bites again, and the wind was cranked up at that time, and it just pushed the big ones up on the bank. So I basically made about 4 laps back and forth on this one bank, and every time I went back through there, I'd catch another 20-incher, another 19-incher, and I think I would have had time to make one more haul through there.
Slid right on up in the first, huh?
I had a 17.5 I need to bail off. So,
and just because I didn't say him at the beginning, here were the numbers for these guys. Lance had a 97 and a quarter, 23 quarter, 20 and a half, 19 and a half, 19, and that 17 and a half you just were talking about. And Nate had 98, anchored with a big old 22 and a half, man. The fish that you got on your board are ridiculous size, man. Anybody that hasn't checked it out or didn't see the pictures that Bassmaster posted, go check it out on Tourney X and the archive tournaments. It was ridiculous. Big old fish. But Lance, tell us, we hear everybody go over there. Everybody throws chatterbaits. We hear so many guys chatterbait combos. What's your lipless setup?
So it was a 1/2 ounce red eye shad.
Mm-hmm.
Just red. And that's basically it. I don't throw it very often. It gets about 1 tournament use out of the year, and it tends to be fork. So
I hear you. What's your rod and reel setup on that? What kind of stuff you preferring?
So I'll throw Kisslers.
Yeah.
I'll throw their Heliums. Haven't broke one since I got one a couple years ago. It's been the most reliable widest rod I ever got a hold of. They got a reel out, and it will cast a mile.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite thing about throwing a lipless is how far I can throw it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fun bait to throw. You like throwing yours on mono or?
I'll throw it on fluoro.
Fluoro. I still haven't quite decided what I like throwing it on.
I throw it on 20-pound P line. That's what I had it on. I just like a little extra stretch, so when they do hit, I don't pull the hooks out. And I love throwing braid, but something about that, I like the fluoro on there, and it tends to come through grass a little easier without getting cut into it.
That's awesome. There's the numbers, and also shout out to Mr. Dwayne Wally. Congrats on another good event on Tourney X and getting that Bass Nation event all put together. It was really good. I think the worst thing we had was all the parking at the marina because that was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, great job by Dwayne. It was super well run. I mean, there's no complaints here.
Yeah, I actually talked to Dwayne a little bit. I texted him and gave him compliments on how well Tourney X worked for this event. I don't think anybody had any issues whatsoever. So yeah, hats off to you, Dwayne. You've been doing this for a number of years now, and it's really cool to be able to have a trophy with Tourney X on there. You've done a great job. So thanks for letting us use your system, man.
Yeah, especially in the times that we live in right now and everything that's going on with the pandemic and all the restrictions and all that. For the way Dwayne has handled it and made decisions, change and adjusted when it's needed to be. I mean, shout out to him. You can't ask for a better job than what he's doing.
Yep, another good one for the books, man. All right, well, Nate, you're the man of the hour. We're going to hand the floor over to you, good sir. Tell us how you whipped our butts.
Sure. It was unexpected, to be honest with you. Both times that I've been down to Fork in the recent times have been really tough pre-fishing. And maybe some of that is accredited to just eliminating some water. I think that we spending those few days or that first day pre-fishing up north really clued us in that those fish may not be as active as they were the days prior to when we had seen everybody posting all these big fish. That was tough to watch, being at work for those few days there and everybody else being down at Lake Fork at that time. But so we put our eggs in at a little caney. I traveled with a partner, so we both wanted to put in at the same place, just for ease of tournament day. And so I started out from the boat ramp. I went maybe 45 yards across the lake right there and started fishing a point. Used my live scope with Panoptics. I'd caught them there that way the day before, Friday morning pre-fishing. Thought that I could pick up maybe 3 or 4 fish, and after 30 minutes, I didn't have a single bite. So I knew I had to make some adjustments and figure something out. So I went down, kind of toward the back. Just kept running back toward the creek to see if I could intercept these fish, and ran into a cut where I'd caught the 21-incher pre-fishing the day before there, and went in there, caught a 12-inch fish. I took a photo of that, didn't have the identifier in there, and so that one was no good. I took a cast right at the spot where I'd caught the 21-incher, and I see, one of the things that was super important for me was just kind of presenting things as a little bit more finesse. A lot of guys were throwing the big old white buzz frogs that they would be able to see if they sunk it on top of a bed, and it was a real large profile. So I went to, a very small creature bait, Texas rigged weightless, and I would run it across the top of the water. And it had just enough action just to make a little bit of, disturbance on the top of the water. And so I casted it up there and seen this big old weight come behind the bait. And I said it earlier on KBN, it startled me, to be honest with you, which caused the reaction for me to just stop the bait. I was more stunned at the weight that was behind this bait. Well, it eats it, and I set the hook, and it broke me off. And so right then and there, I was pretty defeated. That's 2 fish on a lake that has got a lot of pressure at that moment in time, and so every bite counts. And I knew that, and so I went down to the next cut down, thinking that if there's some fish here, maybe there's some more that pulled into this next one here. And I took a cast in there, buzzed it across the top, and seen a big old weight come, and that was a 19.5. Take a photo of that one, and a few minutes goes by. About 10 yards down to the left of that one on the same bank, I see another bass just chasing bait. I mean, and what I think happened was, these bass had just pulled into this little cut, that morning, and decided, yep, this is where I'm going to make my bed, and just started, eating and chasing off anything that was in, just saying, no, I don't want you here, kind of thing. And so I did the same thing, presentation on that one. Followed my bait, I killed it, and that was a 21.25. And a few minutes goes by, 10 more yards down, I see another bass chasing bait. I throw in there, and that's a 16.75. And at that point, then I started to pull out of that little cut to go back up to where I'd lost the 21, or broke off that fish. I think it was the 21 again. And I get to the mouth of it, and I'm, thinking to myself, like, what are you doing leaving fish to go find fish? Like, turn around and get back there. And so I turned around, went back there, and there was a bass boat that had pulled right into there, and I had invited him over, and I said, hey, I said, you guys, I've seen you guys out here the day before. I haven't caught much here. And he's like, well, you're back. And I said, well, I was like, I just don't want to leave fish to find fish. And he's like, well, I can get out of here then. And I said, no, I said, you guys can fish that side. I've already fished that side. I'm going to fish this side of the cut over here. And had a bladed jig on from Mr. B Lures and threw that up along the weed edge line. And that's what gave me my 7.71 pounder and 22 and a half inches, which was my personal best. So to catch that in the tournament was really cool. So I pulled out of that cove and went back up to the cove where I'd lost the 21. And there, when I get over to that cut there, there's a guy all the way in the back, basically right, over top of where I had seen the 21-inch fish. And I could see that he was working a bedded fish at that moment. And so I took a cast in to the right and let it. I ran it across the top of the water, let it sink without really seeing a wake behind it, and just felt a tick on my line. And that one was an 18, and that was my 5-fish card for the day. And didn't have another bite until the end of the day. About 15 minutes left to go. I was at the point across from the boat ramp, and I ended up hitting a 16.75, which was equal to my smallest fish. So it didn't help me any, but having 98 inches, seeing a lake just absolutely exploding for folks, over the last few days and leading into the new moon. The overnight low was 61, which it was the highest that it had been all week, looking at the weather. So it was just the perfect combination for these big bass to kind of roll in and say, now's my time to get in there and start dropping some eggs. So, I just happened to find the right little cut with some quality fish in there.
It was definitely timed. I don't think there's been a kayak tournament timed as perfect as this one was.
No.
And not taken away from any of the other, you can plan as much as you can, but God knows the weatherman can be wrong anytime you look at anything. But everything just played out, which was really cool.
Right. You're so right. Bass has had this event scheduled for a while now, right? Well, that 2-week cold front, man, kind of put a stall on things, down there at Fork. And sure. You heard the guide reports, coming into the tournament. They all were talking, this lake is going to pop any second, any day. I had ran into a guy on Thursday pre-fishing, and he came by and he said, have you caught anything? And I said, no. I said, but I've heard that the lake's gonna, it's gonna bust wide open here pretty soon. And he goes, yeah, people keep telling me that, every day or every hour this is gonna happen. And he goes, I'm just still waiting on that hour. So I think that just kind of happened for a lot of guys on Saturday. A lot of guys caught some good fish.
Something that I thought was pretty cool was I'm trying to remember what he calls himself. I think it's the Your Lake Fork Guide guy. Mm-hmm. He
LFG.
Not maybe
the Guggen Squad. You mean?
No.
Oh. Your Lake Fork.
Yeah, I know which one you mean. Yeah, the guy with the one. Yeah, he's a good guy.
He did a report. I think it was the week before.
Yeah, I saw that one.
But he said, man, these kayak guys are going to kill it because we can't get back to where the water is. Which, outside of what Lance was doing, what most everybody else was doing when the lake was on fire earlier in the week, getting up, super shallow, catching the really aggressive fish. But it's just funny that, the bass boat guys called us. Something I liked about being out at Lake Fork compared to some of the other big tournaments I've done, like everybody in Texas knew why we were there. Like,
yeah,
we stopped at a bar, we stopped at a restaurant, and they're like, "Oh, y'all here for that big kayak tournament?" We were around Gunnersville at the national championship. No one knew why there were 500 kayaks on the water. But it's it was really cool that it's kind of accepted. It was a real welcome feeling. All the bass boat guys, we didn't run into any like I said, the pocket that we ran into, the boats were touching each other, the kayaks were touching the boats. Everybody was having a good time catching fish. Nobody cared.
Yeah, you're so right, man. I think everybody, on Lake Fork this past weekend was just so excited to be there. I mean, you're at Lake Fork at a absolute prime time. And so, yeah, I think everybody was just happy, excited to be there, and everybody's kind of rooting each other on,
Yeah. That's what blew me away, man. Like all these guys have got their lines within 10 yards of each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kayak guy hooks a big one, and the boat guy's like, "Oh yeah, that's a nice one." Then he hooks a big one, and oh yeah, no one cared. And I mean, and it didn't. You could worry about the pressure, but again, pre-fishing, you kind of didn't have to because there's just so many fish. Like everybody was just catching it. It was great.
It was good vibes, definitely. Lance, was this your first time at Fork?
That's my third.
How was it? How was this experience compared to other ones at Fork? When you were, let me ask you this: before the previous times, were you at a tournament or just leisure?
They were both tournaments. So
right.
The last time was a bass event, was the first one they had, and then the time before that was the, I guess, kind of the last TOC before it switched management.
Yeah.
How'd you do with that one, Lance?
Well, it's kind of deja vu, but I got second in that one, and then the bass event last year I got fifth in it. So Fork's been decent.
Yeah, you're a beast on Fork, man. So I mean,
force to be reckoned with, man.
Yeah, when I had shown up to the awards and I saw Lance, I think you said this is a familiar feeling.
That's
so
awesome.
How much do you love, or what's your feelings about Fork, Lance? Obviously, you like it, but
yeah, I mean, there's always that chance there's a big one out there, which is really kind of what I like going down there for. Kind of looking for that personal best. Last year, I got it. Got it in length and in weight.
What was that?
It was 7.4 was it last year, it was only 21.5, and then I had a 22.5 that was right at 7, and so those are my PBs from last year. And this year I had a couple 21s and some 20s, but never anything great, which I think kind of came with the cold water. My fish weren't gorged like Nate's were.
Yeah.
Mine they were healthy and big. They weren't at that point.
Right. But the good fish you were catching are going to be 10-pounders in a few days or a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Did anybody catch a double digit? Does anybody know? Did anybody catch a complete donkey?
I don't think anybody caught a double digit, even in pre-fishing or during the tournament. But I think not a kayak guy anyway. I can't speak for all the boats that were out there.
Yeah, I think. Let's see. I know the big fish was Gage Coley with a 23.25, but I didn't catch what it weighed. But it was giant. So
biggest I heard, Jeremy Mitchell had an 8.7 or 8.8. It was upper 8.
Wow.
Monster.
Pre-fishing.
My buddy was fishing after I rage quit. He was fishing a dock of all things right outside of a pocket, and he's got it all on video, and he hooked one under a pocket that I've never seen double over not a crankbait rod, not a soft rod, a flipping rod. It doubled his flipping rod over and wound him up in the dock pilings. And he had his pole down, his anchor pole down, and he was trying to pedal towards it. So he pedaled towards it, and the anchor pole didn't come up, and then it just slingshotted him backwards, and it got off. But reviewing the footage with him and watching the swirl, I'm pretty sure that was a freak, 10-pounder or something like that. But we'll never know. Sorry, Hummel, I had to put you on blast there, my friend.
What's interesting is hearing you guys talk about how Lake Fork fish and how excited it was and all that. I bet you there's not a single Texan that fished that tournament that feels the same way about it. And I want to dive into that a little bit because you guys both, are you surprised at the results at the placement you got with those numbers? Lance, Nate, I know you were surprised to be in first place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because-
Yeah, I came down just wanting to fish for my personal best bass. I mean, like I said, being at Lake Fork and this time of year, especially with the guide reports were saying, it was like, yeah, you've got a great chance of making that happen. So, yeah, I was totally surprised, to be honest with you. I mean, you've got some really good sticks in this event. Even, I mean, some of those Texas guys have really figured out Lake Fork. I mean, you've got Guillermo, you've got Scotch, you've got I mean, Christine Fisher was on some pigs during pre-fishing. Another guy who I don't believe was there, but is an absolute stick on fork is Ron Champion. He's a beast on fork, and so there's a lot of guys out there and gals that can put up some good fish on fork. You got Lance, who has shown his consistency for the last 3 years. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that Lake Fork set up in a way to be anybody's ball game, and I'm just fortunate that nobody caught one more big fish, because it could have looked a lot different, man.
For the same reason a lot of people couldn't stand that the tournament ended at 2:15, you were very glad that it ended at 2:15.
Yes. To me, when you look at it, I figured it would have taken maybe triple digits at least to win it. I thought for sure triple digit. When you look at OH Ivy, which fished this weekend, 104 was the winner.
See,
what was that?
We did the little go around the house and call out what we thought was going to win, and that was the consensus was 102 to 104.
Mm-hmm.
And only one Texan got into the top 11. That was Guillermo. And even Guillermo, I talked to him. He wasn't completely thrilled about his day, of course. And that speaks to how great it is. He's like, yeah, I got 90. I think he got 96 or something. He knew. It's like, I didn't, yeah, he was like, I don't even know if I got top 10. So, for us mere mortals, 96 to me would have been like, heck, that's a great day. But it was a struggle for Texans. Yeah,
Guillermo came up behind me as I was moving up to the point toward the end of the day, and he had asked, he's like, "Are you catching them?" And I said, "I've got 5 good ones," and I said, "For 98 inches." And I said, "How about you?" And he goes, "I've got five real good ones as well." And I said, "But I don't think that 98 is going to be enough to win it." And he goes, "No, it's probably going to take over 100." And he said, I think it's going to be one here in Glade. And I totally agreed with them. I fully expected to maybe stay, in a top 5 with 98 inches. I was worried about how many guys didn't have signal and didn't have an opportunity to upload. I mean, I know I had spotty service, so I had to go all the way back to the ramp to upload my fish. So I knew that was possible for anybody. So, like I said, just extremely, I'm still shocked and surprised by, how close the race really was.
What about you, Lance? Were you surprised that your third place finished with your total?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when 3 o'clock rolled around and I didn't get a text, I was like, yeah, I kind of figured. I was like, well, I can maybe hope for a top 10, but I was expecting about 3 to 4 and at least being over 100. And then I didn't really pay attention, or I couldn't really hear a whole lot at the captain's meeting on check-in, whether it was just check in with Tourney X or actually come back. And having in the upper 90s, I just went ahead and flew back and got there before 3:15. And as soon as I pulled in the parking lot, I got a text that, hey, can you make it here? And so I just responded, yeah, I'm here.
Beat you to it. Yeah. I knew I did good.
I couldn't believe it, which I saw Nate's total before everything shut off, so I knew I wasn't in first, but I had no idea if I was in the second or third.
Well, heck yeah, guys.
And like you said earlier, Jimmy, a big shout out to the kid who got second place. Really wish he would have been able to join us to hear about his day and
Justin.
And, how he got it done, because that kid he really put up some good fish as well. And,
I mean, he missed it by a quarter of an inch. He had an excellent day.
Yeah.
I hate that we couldn't get a hold of him, but I messaged Dwayne, and Dwayne was like, he's like, I have his email, but that's about it. And I
talked to him on the ramp too. I talked to all 3 of you when you got the award. So we'll be contacting you. I wish I would have asked for his phone. I figured out he'll I'm sure he's on social media or something. We'll find him. But yeah,
maybe he'll reach out and you guys will be able to get him back on here. And
if anything, we can do like a little 20-minute filler exclusive or something. Let him talk about it, or do like a vlog or something. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I know he just he caught some great fish, and it's such a tight race. I mean, between myself and him and Lance and the rest of the field in the top 20, it was anybody's ball game. So everybody did a fantastic job of sacking up those fish.
Heck yeah, man. Well, y'all killed it. I sucked it up. Armando, we sucked it up. But I will be back. I can't wait to come back to Lake Fork. It's awesome. I hope to come back next year, like the same week if everything plays out, do it all over again. But this is the time of the show, we get ready to close it out. We let you talk about thank any of your sponsors or anybody that makes fishing easier for you. So Lance, take it away.
I'd really like to thank Bonafide. They got me a kayak, actually delivered down there, and I met them with it, and I rigged it out the night before I pre-fished, so hoping nothing would break the next couple days. So that was going to bless them. Kissel rods, propagator baits, of course, Titan tungsten, amphibia eye gear. They're kind of what keeps me on the water.
Thank you.
And of course,
that's awesome.
My family let me go down there. My wife, kids, let me take a week away, and then be able to get back to them. Oh
yeah, now they get to help spend that big check, man. So
yeah,
they're super excited. Well, we're gonna let Dad go do this a lot more often.
Yeah.
Well, man, we appreciate it for sure. But Nate, what about you, man? Who makes it easy for you?
Yeah, first and foremost, family. The sacrifices that are made from family members to allow you to get out and go chase these opportunities like this is super important. Can't be done without it. They take care of things at home for you. But also, Kelly Moe with Elmore's Rods. That guy has built some incredible rods for me over the years. Not only has he built me rods for both of my wins at Lake Fork, but he also built me an amazing rod for my time in Australia at Hobie Worlds to catch those yellowfin bream. And awesome. He has wonderful craftsmanship. It's worth every bit of it. I've got a lot of confidence in it. So thanks to Kelly Moe for always supporting me and having my back and delivering me a really good product. And for sure, Mr. B Brent Schneider. With Mr. B Lure Company, man, that bladed jig got me a 7.7, 22.5 personal best, and I'm super excited about that. I'm hoping to get a mount made for that by Jimmy Lawrence, who's one of the best taxidermists in the nation, probably in the world. So I'll be having a mount made of that fish. I'm super excited for that. And thanks to Bass Nation for giving us this opportunity to go down to Lake Fork and fish that event, and all the anglers that showed out for that event just made it that much more special. So
that's awesome, guys. Well, congrats again. Y'all killed it. Y'all are class act people. We thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time to talk about it. And sure, we'll have you back on again, whether it be another event this year. Hope y'all do good, or if you come back and show out on Lake Fork again next year. But we appreciate it, and we will talk to y'all again soon.
Nice job, Lance.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having us.
Take care, guys.
Congratulations, both of you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
Great job.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, another great show. Again, congrats to those guys for putting it together and, winning a big one. I'm going to go ahead and get to the other tournaments we had going on this week across the country, and then we got a little bit of paddle and fin info we're going to give out about the event we got coming up. So first off, the SoCal Kayak Anglers, 47 anglers at San Vicente, I guess. Probably screwed that up. But first place, Mark Chrisman with 88 1/4. Second, Justin Mopin, 84 inches. Third place, Brian Lepke with 83 1/4. Next up, Natural State Kayak Anglers on the Shogun Roadrunner event, which was any public access within a radius of a certain area. That was a mouthful. It was way more than that. I wasn't going to type all of that. But there were 73 anglers. Dwayne Beatty won it with 93 1/4. Sam McLish, second place, 86 1/2. Third place, Carson McBride with 86 and a quarter. Congrats on that, guys. And then this one was interesting to me since we're about to be down there for a couple of weekends. The Bluegrass Kayak Bass Fishing guys were out on Del Hollow with 57 anglers. First place was Chris Schaefer, 92 inches. Second place, Mr. Hobie himself, AJ McWhorter with 90 and a quarter. Third place, Brian Coyne with 90 inches. Based off a lot of the pictures I saw, Del Hollow is turning on, which is great because we're about to be down there. Next one, a local one for me. Coleman Kayak Anglers were on Gunnersville. They had 43 people show up. That's their biggest tournament ever. Congrats to them. It's a nice little club. My man Chris Marks took the win, 57 and a half. And his best friend, Coy Jones, was second place, 53 inches. I guarantee you, I can tell you where you two guys were fishing. And you are continuing to show how good you are at that lake, Chris and Coy. Y'all are killing it. Chris got fourth place, I think, last week at the Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers, the Chattanooga tournament on Gunnersville. So good job, Bubba. Next up, Carolina Kayak Anglers. They had 74 anglers, and this was another like multi-lake thing. It was 4 lakes, 5 launches. Lake McIntosh, Stony Creek, Graham Bain, and Kamak. Wow, my font got small on this one. I'm blind. First place was Christopher Decker with 93 and a quarter. Second place was Brooks Lanier with 88 and 3/4. Third was Melvin Yang with 83 and a half. So good job to those guys. Last up, Kayak Anglers of Florida on Lake Istockpoga, maybe. We'll go with it. Can't pronounce that. 36 anglers. Yeah, it's Florida, big fish land. First place, Sam Setacase, 86 and a half. Second place, Michael Nielsen with 85. And third place, Chris Mitchell with 83 and a quarter. Congrats, guys, on that. I will go ahead and apologize to anybody that had a tournament that happened on Sunday because I wrote all this down Saturday and forgot to go back and look for the archive tournaments. So if you had a tournament, you had a bunch of people there, congratulations to all the winners and keep hammering them out. So now that we got all that done, take a breath. Now we're going to get to the paddle and fin stuff that's coming up. We have got wrong graphic. Here we go. Coming up, we've got the paddle and fin Clash of the Clubs on Del Hollow. We've talked about it a lot. If you've been on the OG show, it's 3-man teams. They've opened it up. It's even bigger than this graphic right here. 3-man teams coming from grassroots clubs only. Everybody's coming down to Del Hollow to the Eastport Marina. They're going to hook us up. We're going to have, I think there's 3 boats being given away. There's been extra money donated in the pot. You know, all sorts of stuff going to go down that weekend. It's going to be killer. There's also the open trail event that day, April 9th and 10th. So come on down to Del Hollow, hang out with us. It's going to be a good time. We're going to be running around with cameras, and it's going to be just a hell of an experience. If you've got the time, come to Del Hollow for sure. I mean, you might catch the world record smallmouth. It's happened there once already, so You never know. But I think that's it. That was a lot to fill in right here at the end. But you know, another good show. A whole bunch of stuff coming up, man. There's lots of tournaments. Paddle and Fin's got a lot of big things going on, so stay tuned. Check out Armando show, Bass, Kayak, and Beers. I'm sure he's got some cool guests coming up. Might even have me on again because I'm beautiful. He likes talking to me.
Yes. In that sexy red beard.
But yeah, man. It was a good show. Glad to have everybody back. We'll see you again Monday.
See you Monday, guys.
Yeah. And now I got to find our closer because all that changed too.
While you find that, for those out there fishing, I know Chris Marks mentioned something about Gunnersville and the encroachment and all that. I had this experience. I had a great experience. If you want to fish a spot, there's other people, just ask. Just be courteous. Even if you feel like you're entitled to that spot, just say, hey, man, I've got 2 or 3 times where I just say, you don't mind if I go past you? You don't mind if I... And I've never had anybody get upset because of asking. So, you know, treat them like you like to be treated if somebody's approaching your spot, and you should be surprised at the results.
Easy way to put it right here. Don't be an ass. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_n_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_n_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com